Welcome to Basketball Mechanics with Coach Greg. This is my series on Basketball Explained. Topic 1 is 3 pillars of basketball and how one of these pillars tends to get neglected. So the 3 pillars that support good basketball is mechanics, mental game, and cardio. Pillar 1 is mechanics, how to move your body to do things in basketball, like how to dribble or shoot, or to do a layup, or to pass, or to pivot. There are 3 pillars, but mechanics is the most fundamental of the 3 pillars that support good basketball. Pillar 2 is what I call mental game, and it comprises of multiple parts. Decision making. Now I have the ball, so when do I pass? Or when do I shoot? Or when do I dribble? If I don't have the ball, where should I go on the court on offense or on defense? Can I remember the play that we've been practicing? When do I break from the play when I see an opportunity arising? What are the strengths and weaknesses of my opponent? All of this lumped together is what I call mental game. It's also usually referred to as basketball IQ. Pillar 3 is cardio. You defend one basket and then have to run down the court to score on the other basket. There's constant movement for defense, for rebounds, for offense, all of which requires a lot of oxygen for your muscles. With bad cardio and the resulting exhaustion, your mechanics lose form. You start to miss shots, lose control of your dribble, and you have inaccurate passes. And you can't think about mental game. You just don't have the cognitive ability because you're so tired. This is why there's a bench of players to substitute in for the starters, to provide them a short rest, to catch their breath, calm down, and then they can go back in fresh and keep their shooting percentages high. What does it look like to have 2 of the 3 pillars? Well, if you have mechanics and you have mental game, but no cardio, then both decrease every minute as the game progresses. So me as an aging player, I have all the mechanics and I have all the mental game. I can see, track people as I dribble, keep my vision up, have an accurate shot. But the more I run and the more I go up and down the court, play hard defense, the more tired I get and the more inaccurate I get, the harder it is for me to concentrate on the game. And that's just what happens as you get older. Now, if you have mechanics and cardio, but no mental game, then you play bad basketball. Teamwork is bad, there's bad decision making, it generates low percentage shot selection. The team tends to lose and not have that much fun. So one example is I go to a public park and I play a game and it's just a shot, a 3-point shot, it misses, somebody gets a rebound, you run all the way down the other end of the court, someone immediately throws up another 3-point shot, they miss, you run all the way back, someone else puts up a 3-point shot, nobody's looking to pass, nobody's cutting through the key, there's no post-up game, there's no fakes, and there's no teamwork, and it just leads to bad quality shots. And then with 2 NBA teams playing against each other, you could say they both have mechanics and they both have the cardio, but it's really who can have the best mental game. How well can they synergize with their teammates? How well can they exploit the weaknesses of their opponent? And whether this goes on through a game or a season or a playoff series. Now, if you have mental game and cardio but no mechanics, then you know what to do, but you can't really do any of them. And so an example of this is an athlete who's trying out basketball, but they're competent in another sport like soccer or football, where movement and getting open is actually it's a strategy that they've practiced a lot already. And so I've played with players like this, usually like football players, and they're getting open and I'm passing the ball and they're right underneath the basket, but they miss the shot and they're like 1 foot away from the basket, but they only have one shooting form, it's not very good, and they have no other way to shoot the ball. There's no side scoops, there's no hook shots, there's no reverse pivot fadeaway shots, and so they lack a lot of mechanics, but they kind of get the strategy of how to get open. With this graphic, I'm trying to show that the percentage of time spent on learning mechanics would generally decrease as you would move in age from elementary school age to high school varsity. And I show on the right that it's less, not 0. There's always development, there's always trying to improve your form, increase your shooting percentage, add new skills. But naturally, most people would agree that as you would get older, you wouldn't need to spend as much time on mechanics. Conversely, the bottom half of the graphic is showing the percent of time spent on learning plays, which is mental game. So young elementary school age kids are just learning their mechanics. They don't have a lot of attention left to remember and execute plays well. But as they would age and as they acquire more and more mechanics and it becomes more habit, they don't have to think about it. They can spend more time and more mental energy focusing and remembering plays, and it would develop as you continue on to high school varsity. The changes in this slide represent a combination of my observations and the stories I have heard from parents and players over roughly 7 years of coaching teams and providing private lessons. During team programs, mechanics are emphasized for elementary school age children, but as kids near middle school age, mechanics training slows down to a trickle or completely stops altogether. In 2 slides, I explain why I think this happens. But know that this slide only represents what I often hear. This does not represent all coaches or programs. Let me know in the comments if this has ever been your experience though. Again, conversely, the bottom half shows an increasing rate for time devoted to learning plays that grows too fast. However, I'm not critiquing varsity high school basketball programs. These programs often feed players into college teams. This level of competition is completely beyond the scope of my mission for this YouTube channel. Though, from around 6th grade to sophomore year basketball programs, it does seem that the time spent on learning plays becomes excessive and sacrifices time that should be spent on mechanics. Plays are a part of mental game, and mental game is a pillar that critically supports good basketball. Plays organize all 5 players so that they strategically help each other. Without them, chaos unfolds. But do not forget about mechanics. Individual player development should always be a part of the team program. I believe this quote is an appropriate analogy to explain the value of teaching mechanics. Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach a person how to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. So, analogously, teach a basketball player a play to run and you feed them for a single season, or sometimes even as little as a single game. But if you teach a basketball player a new mechanic, you provide them a new tool they can use for the rest of their life. I think mechanics get neglected by coaches because of these 5 thoughts. Number 1, it is not my job. I take the chess pieces I have been given and I strategize on how best to use them. I take the players that I have with the skills that they bring to me and I try my best to utilize them and bring them all together for the most effective basketball team I can. Number 2, it takes too much time. My practice is too short to squeeze in another thing to do. And besides, for a player to learn a new mechanic, it just takes too long and the season's only 10 weeks. Number 3, because of how long it takes, this is something the player should be learning on their own or during the off seasons. But the problem is, during the off seasons it still doesn't seem to happen, or players try other sports. Number 4, my starting 5 players know how to do most things, and they get most of the playing time in games. So it's a waste of my limited time to teach the bottom half of my team new mechanics. And finally, number 5, I don't know how to, or at least not in a time-efficient manner. I demonstrate a move a few times, and either they can do it or they can't. As I demonstrate the move, I make it look easy, because it is easy, for me. If the players cannot have some immediate success, then maybe they do not have the dexterity to learn the move in the first place. If you're a coach, you probably feel defensive and blamed, but I will confess, when I first started coaching, I did not know how to teach mechanics either. My journey with teaching mechanics began with 9th grade girls who were new to basketball and sports in general. How do I teach them to do a layup? I mean, you just do a layup. So it started with their left foot on the second hash, their right foot behind them, their heel up, holding the ball in 2 hands, and reaching forward to the first hash with their right foot and getting that ball in front of their right knee. That's where all of this began for me. Even last week before this recording, I had a 7-year-old boy who would slap the basketball when trying to dribble. For 4 lessons, I kept trying to get him to change his arm mechanics with various drills. I was not making any progress though, and I thought maybe this kid needs to grow up a few years before he learns to not slap the ball. But I took this as a personal challenge to change his mechanics. On the 5th lesson, I had my breakthrough with a new drill that I thought of that changed his arm mechanics, and he could finally maintain a dribble. Now I will make this into a video so that it saves you the trial and error time that it took me. So many coaches are skilled players in the sport, but they struggle with the teaching steps, the baby steps, the mechanic steps of analyzing a skill or move and breaking it down. Now, I was a relatively skilled player who became a teacher first, and then I became a coach. And this is one of the main reasons why I made the video series on basketball mechanics, to provide coaches and players the simple mechanic steps to learn complex basketball moves in a timely fashion. To a skilled advanced player, basketball does not feel complex, but to a beginner, most things feel overwhelming and awkward. And I'll end with this. Excellence endures long after cost is forgotten. Some coaches have forgotten that cost long ago when they were beginners, and my videos are here to help. I know this video became a bit controversial, so feel free to leave a comment to continue this discussion on finding time for the 3 pillars of basketball. If you found anything in this video that was thought-provoking or even helpful, please like the video and consider subscribing to my channel.